Hi, I'm Ross Benjamin, and welcome to another edition of the Winner's Circle. Today is our NFL late week edition. Once again, I'm joined by my buddy, my partner in crime, and a great handicapper from Las Vegas, Nevada, Mr. Chip Chirimbus. How are you today, my man?
I'm fine. Thank you very much for that introduction, Ross.
And we got stuff going tonight, both of us in the NFL. Again, we're taping on Thursday, the 10th of December. Chipper had to correct me because I almost said the 11th to start the show. And I have a winning total tonight in the Rams and Patriots games. And Chipper, I've gone 13-3 with my last 16 NFL totals dating back to last year, 10-3 this year, and 3-0 with my last three last year. I got the winning total. You can get it right now at rbwins.com and tell the folks what you have on tap.
Well, that's damn good. 13-3 on the total. We might be able to give them a little parlay tonight, though I'm not into parlaying because I have the side tonight. I posted the side at Chip Wins, and I've had a great season with these Thursday nights, Sunday nights, and Monday night sides. When I posted the side, I've gone 22-10. So I have a side in that game tonight, and go to RB Wins and go to Chip Wins and collect twice. That's
hey, you can't forget that, right? Chipwins.com, rbwins.com. We can't make it any more simple for you, folks. And those of you chasing these shows with free picks, God bless you. You're going to be chasing them all year, all season long, because what ends up happening, you think you got one guy that's good. He loses one game. You get impatient. You go to the next. You're never going to win that way. No. Come aboard with a couple true professionals, and I could say that with the utmost honesty and integrity, because our records back our claims. All of our picks are documented independently and from a credible source. You could go to sportscapping.com. You'll see both me and Chip being monitored there. So there's no hidden agenda. You're not getting the old days where guys were two-siding games, right, Chip? You remember those days, the pre-internet days. It was embarrassing,
Yeah, they used to, say they get 500 people, I give 250 each to say different sides, and then they break that down and give them a second game and say, look, we're 2-0 with you, and it was a matter of numbers, and the industry in this business really had a very tainted image and a very, very negative image. Now with the legalized gaming and gambling around the country and the internet, people can see who we are and what we do. And I think it's probably in the long run, it's better for us because of our credibility. Yeah. Ross, guys like you and I, we would have to fight with a competitor that would say he's 18-2. He was 19-1 last week. As a matter of fact, you and I actually did some work for somebody like that, that would make outrageous claims. And they didn't care. And a lot of these guys just changed their name the following season. What's the difference? They can change the name in mid-season. But we are registered. We're documented. I'm a company. I pay taxes on all the money we earn, and God bless America for the opportunity to be able to do this. That's what I'm happy about.
Absolutely. I mean, you've been doing it a long time. I've been doing it for the last 20 years publicly. Of course, I was involved a lot before then. Everybody has a foundation before they got into this business. The big thing is longevity, folks. When you see two guys like us that's been around this long, you don't last this long if you're a dishonest person. You don't last this long if you show a lack of integrity and professionalism. And most of all, you don't last this long unless you win. Okay. So again, I think a lot of people's problems, Chip, is they jump aboard a guy like yourself who may be red hot like you are right now, and you have a losing day. And they MF you all over the place, for lack of a better phrase. I don't want to use the exact terminology because we've been called everything in a book. And then they jump to the next guy who's red hot. And look, eventually that red hot streak is going to cool off. It's just the way it is. What you want to do is find a guy who's trustworthy, a guy who puts out a great product, a guy who's shown the ability to win over the long haul, and stick with him and use proper money management. And, Chip, that brings me to this. One of the major flaws I've seen with people over the last 20 years is not a matter of me winning or losing for them. It's a matter of they don't exercise proper money management. And, that's if you don't have proper money management, Chip, you just don't succeed in this business,
Russ,
right?
it's sort of like the element that the industry that we're dealing with. We're dealing with people that are compulsive, people that like the adrenaline rush. And when we say pass, I've had people call me back on a Monday night when I passed on a game and said, Chipper, give me a game. And I say, well, if I give you a game, I want it to win. And his exact quote to me, Ross, was, hell, I don't care if it wins. He just wanted the action. And
Yeah.
there's a difference between having the action and trying to make money. And what we're trying to turn a profit out for our customers every day. And nobody wins every day.
Yeah.
Nobody. And no
Nobody.
matter what you hear and what you say, and like you said, you hit that 62% plateau over a season, you've done a hell of a
I tell
job.
you, 62% is a hell of a percentage, folks.
Right.
If you go 55 to 58%, it's pretty darn good. And that might not impress a lot of you out there, who I can't tell you how many times somebody say, well, what are you for the year? Well, I'm 57% right now in the NFL. Oh, I could do that myself. Well, what are you calling me for then? You
They
know?
all absolutely, everybody I know out there can do a better job at what I do.
Yeah.
They're all better handicappers. They all have better records than I had until they get monitored.
Yeah.
Oh, I can pick 2 out of 3 anytime. And then the day you go 0 for 2 or 0 for 3, you forget that. I don't have to, the next day I don't hear from you. We're there the next day. I
Yeah.
was there 1 and 2 yesterday. I was 3 and 0 the day before. And I'll be here tomorrow no matter what I do tonight in the game. And you're the same way. We're in this because we understand this industry and this business, and we know how to win. Some people don't understand how to win. You said that about this. I think discipline and integrity is a great part of it.
Yeah.
And being able to understand that not every single game is going to come through with a 45-0 win like last week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you don't get paid extra when you win a game 45-0, right, Chip? And they also
Absolutely.
don't charge you more if you get blown out either. A loss is a loss, a win is a win.
Thank
you
God
know,
for that, or I would have never recovered from that game last week.
Exactly, right? So, I mean, that happens. Once in a while, you not only lose a game, you're way off. And that's what we do as sports handicappers on a professional basis. Is Chipper will look at a game like he lost last week and say, okay, there's no way under the same circumstances that I would make that pick again today. And here's why. Okay. Right. You've also lost games, Chip, that I know you've woke up the next morning and said, and look at all the circumstances that occurred in that game and say, you know what? If the same identical situation comes up today, I would make the same play. I'm sure you've been there, right?
Yeah, we had it this year when I had a big game of the year and I got totally blown out and I misread the game. And the next week I had to come back. This is Penn State, you know the story.
Yeah,
and the next week I had to come back with them because they were the best play on the board the following week. And then they posted their first win. And I think the psyche of us as trying to make the customer understand we're not chasing a team if we lost with them a day or two a week before, that there's reasons behind it and there's valid reasons, and it's not instinct. I mean, a lot of it is instinct is what I'm trying to say. And we're monitored, like I said, everybody's 2-1 until you start recording their records, and then all of a sudden they disappear. And and we're here every day.
Yeah. And when you say instinct, trusting your instinct, it goes hand in hand with a lot of experience, right? So you've made mistakes, you've found your successful ways, and you blend that in, and instinctively, that's what you're talking about. Because somebody could start and say they have good instinct. Oh, I've always had a good instinct in making decisions. This is a whole different animal. I had one guy tell me one time, all it is common sense. Well, really? We just brought up a couple examples in our show yesterday on college football that made no sense whatsoever. Okay. And when that happens, more times than not, me and you are looking to go against.
Ross,
yeah.
Plus, along with that, another former professional who I've worked with for years, we used to post a play called the "Don't Make Sense" winner.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't make sense that we're going to have this side and we're going to win the game. And it happens because, let's face it, the bookmaker's not out there so that you don't have to work. Is he providing a point spread on that game so that you can make money, or is it an inducement so that he can make money?
Exactly.
I think it's an inducement.
That's why I stick to my adage, Chipper. You've heard me say it a million times. I've heard you say it a couple times too now. Hey,
Well,
man, I'm making progress. Think like a bookmaker, folks.
Yeah.
And as soon as you think you know more than the bookmaker, this line is off, That's your biggest mistake right there.
Yep.
Not be fear a bookmaker, respect a bookmaker,
Very
and
good.
then think like him as well. Okay. Why is this line where it's at? It doesn't make sense. They're not going to just give money away. You know what I
No.
mean? Now, having said that, that logic doesn't work 100% of the time, but more times than not, it does. And that phrase in itself, more times than not, okay, that's what we try to say with our logic, our handicapping methods. More times than not, we're right than wrong. Okay. So, and again, Chip, if you do the math, 55%, I don't have to sell you on
Yeah,
this.
but
And I'm not saying our goal is to hit 55%. I'm just telling you, over the course of a season, if you had what you would consider a bad year at 55%, do the math at $100 a game, paying 10% juice. You're probably making over 1,000 plays. Okay. Again, if you're playing $100 a game, folks, don't call me and think you're going to retire after a year, because it doesn't exist. Okay. Yeah, again, those are the guys who tend to be the biggest pains to me. And I hate to say that. It's not the guys who bet a dime or two a game, which in our terms is 1,000 or two a game. It's the guys who play $100, $200 a game and expect they're going to make $30,000 at the end of the year. It's not going to happen. Be happy you're in the black at all. Be happy you tripled what you invested with me. Okay. Anyway, that's a whole subject for another day. I don't know how we got off on that tangent, but let's get right to the NFL card, Chip. All
I'm
right.
with you.
We already talked a little bit that we both have play in this game tonight. I have the side, or you have the side. I have the total. If you want both, go to chipwins.com, rbwins.com. You can get both the side and the total for myself and Chipper. All right. Green Bay and Detroit. This opened with Green Bay being an 8-point favorite, and they're now down to 7.5. The total is a very high 55, rightfully so. Again, Detroit fires their head coach, Matt Patricia. Their interim coach steps in, and interim coaches in the NFL the week after, or the week they take over this season, are a perfect 3-0 now, Chip.
Yeah, I know. And Trubinsky had a fumble on the last possession.
Boy, oh boy.
It's just, we had a couple of instances like that this past weekend, which hurt us. Teams fumbling inside the 5-yard line with the game on the line. But anyway, regardless, Green Bay, they did what they were supposed to do last time out against Philadelphia. It looked like Philly had caught them against the points. And this could be what we'd call a backdoor cover, when Green Bay looks as though they're not even trying to score. And all of a sudden they move 80 yards on 3 plays and they cover the spread. I was checking Aaron Rodgers' numbers today, and I think he's got like 38 touchdown passes and only 36 touchdown passes with only 4 interceptions. And I was comparing him to Mahomes, who's got 31 touchdown passes. And I says, Rodgers has got him beat. But Mahomes only has 2 INTs. Not that 4 at this course of the season is bad, Ross.
Yeah.
But Detroit, aren't they happy now? They're rejuvenated. They got no coach. They were jumping around. I guess they had a big win last week, and maybe that's why the number came down right off the top, Ross. Some people might think that they're revitalized.
Unless you watched that game, they were extremely lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, they scored a touchdown with somewhere around 2 minutes to play. Chicago got the ball back, and on the 3rd down play, Trubisky drops back to pass, gets stripped for a fumble, and of course, Detroit scores on the next play, and Chicago can't respond. So it typifies the Bears' year right there.
Yeah, it's coaching, though, right?
Yeah,
is that Detroit positive coaching? Is that instilled that, or the fact that it's actually Bear negative coaching that they still have Trubinsky playing? So I guess I can say that.
Exactly. I still think the Bears are better with Trubisky right now than Foles. But having said that, this game right now, not a game I'm willing to dabble into. Again, here's the thing with Green Bay. This is what kudos to Rodgers. He's having a phenomenal year. He's got probably the best receiver in the game in Davante Adams.
He's good.
And if you stop and think about it, he's not surrounded by great receivers himself, meaning Davante Adams. Still, the guy finds a way to get open and get 10, 11 catches, it seems like, every week. And not only he doesn't get him for 10 for 80 or 10 for 70, it's 10 for $1.50 and a
Yeah.
couple touchdowns.
Yeah.
So kudos to them. And kudos to Rodgers, because going into the year, I really questioned Green Bay management, because in a draft, this past draft, there was an enormous amount of talent at wide receiver coming out. And Green Bay opted not to draft a wide receiver. And then he opted to draft Jordan Love in the first round early on, a quarterback at Utah State that had thrown 16 interceptions last year. And
That was a
everybody
reach.
scratched their head, right?
Well, that was a reach taking him. I mean, there were better prospects out there as it was. And they didn't need a backup quarterback. I mean, Rodgers didn't show much signs of deteriorating last year. That you thought that maybe it was imminent that this kid would be in training this year and playing next year. So, what their brass and their administration did here is sort of boggling to me. And, as boggling as what the Bears did to get Trubinsky. But, hey, these guys have jobs with making huge decisions. And look what we're doing. We're scrambling to decipher what the decisions mean. I mean,
the good thing about us, now we can get on tape. So when we tell somebody that we said that this was a bad move, and you can go back to a tape last August and check it out.
Yeah.
It's not just hearsay. We go back to the old handicapping days where these guys were
falsifying
records. Well, there was no way to check them back then. There was no internet. So, and people just wanted to say what customers wanted to hear or potential clients wanted to hear. Look, shame on you if you fall for that now, because information is right there at your fingertips. So
I know one thing. If I was a general manager, I never would have signed Gary Sanchez.
You're talking about getting off on a tangent. Anyway, and not only did they make that move with Jordan Love, but Aaron Rodgers still had 4 years left on his contract.
Where's he going with this? I mean,
and now here's the thing. Kudos to Rodgers. He's having a fantastic
he's
year.
doing great.
Okay, I mean, I don't take anything away from him whatsoever. I'm not sold on Green Bay's defense. You got to keep in mind, come playoff time, this is a team that's really benefited from playing a soft schedule and beating the beatables. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you can only play who you're scheduled, right, Chip? So I'm not knocking them for that.
They got another beatable this week, right? They're playing Detroit. So
exactly. I mean, well, you look at the division. I mean, Detroit and Chicago right off the bat. There's 4 games against teams that are very beatable, and then the Minnesota Vikings are 6-6. They lost to Minnesota at Minnesota. So, I mean, what my point is, Chipper, is I would be really leery laying a sizable number with them come playoff time. Just keep that in mind going forward. That's what I would suggest to the listeners and viewers. Tennessee at Jacksonville, not a lot to talk about here. Tennessee coming off a terrible performance at home against Cleveland. That score was not indicative of how one-sided that game was. And they're laying 7.5 on the road against a hapless Jacksonville Jaguars team that lost last week in overtime at Minnesota. So it's not like they quit on their coach yet, but what's your thoughts, Chip, if any?
Jacksonville's defense is too weak to stop anybody. I might anticipate this is the Titans we're talking about, right?
Yes.
I might anticipate them trying to shove the ball down their throats this week. It's a nothing game to me, Ross. I mean, I can't get excited either way, but that's how it may run in the course of my mind.
Yeah, to me, there's better value on the board. The obvious play is Tennessee, and when things are obvious, they usually don't pan out. More times than not, they don't pan out. Yes. Okay, and the other part of the equation too, Chip, I got to say this again: Tennessee's defense. I've been harping on this all year long. Look what happened last week against the Browns, who had been struggling to score points, and then all of a sudden, the Browns look like the second coming of the early 90s St. Louis Rams,
the Browns running game is really outstanding.
There's no two ways about
it. Chubb's averaging over 6 yards a carry. Hill's like at 4.6.
Best 1-2 punch in football, buddy.
And that's why Mayfield has only 2,200 yards passing. I mean, this team is looking to control the ball in the hands and not put it in the air.
Yeah, he had the most passing yards in the first half of any Cleveland Browns quarterback in their glorified history. Now,
That's
when I say
amazing.
glorified, it goes back a long way. They
Oh,
did
we're
have
talking
some
about
glory
Otto
days.
Graham, Milt Plum. We're talking about a few
Yeah,
good, few good,
Frank Ryan.
Brian Sipe. I mean, they've had a few good
Yeah,
quarterbacks there.
yeah, the Frank Ryan days with Jimmy Brown
Absolutely.
and Ernie Green, and so
Ryan
anyway,
was a great quarterback.
yeah, no doubt.
Didn't he
It's the
take it?
last
Didn't he take him to the
championship they won.
championship against the Colts? Didn't they beat the Colts in the championship game?
27-0
There you go.
at
Blanton
the old at,
Collier.
at the old Memorial Stadium in Cleveland.
Yep.
And that was a Colts team that was quarterbacked by Johnny Unitas. Anyway, let's get to the next game. Another stinker. The Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals. Believe it or not, folks, the 3-8 Cowboys are a 3.5-point favorite against the 2-9-1 Cincinnati Bengals. Again, one of those situations that, you know what, if they're going to make Dallas better than a field goal favorite, you got to pay attention to the books. They know something I don't know.
Well, it's probably the experience at quarterback with Andy Dalton, because there
Yeah.
is no experience on the Bengals side. Here's a team that had the #1 draft pick, Joe Barrow, and he did great for them. You must say he did for a rookie coming out, but they still had only won 2 games under his leadership, and they haven't won since. And they probably won't. Their offense is really dreadful. I think, Ross, I'm not sure, and you would know better than I would, but they're like 31st or 32nd in the running game.
Yeah.
The Jets may have passed them this past week because they had a decent game, but Cincinnati may be in the running for another top draft pick again. Though I think the Jets are going to sew that up once again.
Yeah, I mean, actually, Cincinnati's skill position players, when healthy, are pretty good. You think about AJ Green and Tyler Boyd, and a running back when Joe Mixon is healthy, that really hurt him.
Well, Nick Mixon, I think, has been hurt more than not, or hasn't played.
Well,
of
he's
late.
been out for the year for quite a while now. But
And what about AJ Green? I haven't heard his name in 3 years catching a touchdown pass. I mean,
yeah, well, I mean, he was hurt all last year.
yeah. Well,
He
I
missed
haven't
the
heard him this
entire
year either. And
Yeah. And now he's playing with second and third string quarterbacks. He started the year with a rookie who performed pretty well. I would tell you this. I know there's no doubt in my mind, I could say this with unequivocal confidence, that if Joe Burrow doesn't go down, Cincinnati wins at least 4 or 5 games this year.
No, listen, they played well. They were one of the better point spread teams with him there. I mean, but they had a long place to come from, Ross. I think they won 1 game last year. And if they improve by 3 games, I mean, that's a pretty big move in the NFL.
Yeah.
And but I think now they've been snake bitten here, and I think it's tough for them to come up. Maybe Dallas would like to be able to show something. I mean, if they can kick a field goal, maybe they can win a game.
I don't think their offense is a problem when they're all healthy. Like I said, I think their defense is what they need to address in the offseason, Chip, via the draft or free agency, right?
Yeah,
so
it's and they're not getting sacks. I think they've given up like 26 touchdown passes, 28 touchdown passes, something along those lines, but only 4 INTs. So I mean, you have to come up sometime. And 2 teams that are very disappointing this year defensively that I say unanticipated would be the Cowboys and your favorite, the Seattle Seahawks. Those 2 teams haven't tackled anybody yet this year.
Let me ask you a question. When you get situations like this, okay, Andy Dalton returning to Cincinnati for the first time after spending many years there and successful years at that, how much do you factor that in?
I really don't, because it's sort of like I don't, and I'll tell you why, Ross. It's sort of like I think these players are going out there and doing the best they can every time out. I don't believe these teams tank for a #1 draft pick. Am I going to lay down in the game so that you could take someone and take my position and my job?
Right.
That doesn't make sense. If there's tanking, it may come from the above rather than the players on the field. So I think they're doing their best when they're out there.
Yeah, and again, to jump on your back on that is it's all factored into the line. So again, I asked that question because I've had that asked to me a couple times this week, Chip, and I really don't account for that whatsoever. I mean, if I know about it and I'm thinking about it, you could bet your behind that the books are thinking about it too. So if it is a factor, it's certainly been incorporated into the line, because we've seen no movement at all in this game. It's opened at 3.5. It stayed at 3.5, and I would venture to say this is going to be the least bet game on the board this week. I'll check those stats out at the end of the week, see how close I am, but we'll see. Anyway, Arizona and the Giants. Now, we talked about this game earlier, and you opened my eyes to something. So I'm going to let you take it away here. Arizona opened as a 1.5-point favorite. They're now 2.5 or 3, depending on where you're looking. This is an Arizona team that's lost 4 or 5. Their only win, as you alluded to on several occasions last week, was that Hail Mary against Buffalo. So they very easily could be on a 5-game losing streak right now, Chipper. And the Giants, break up them New York Football Giants, who are 4-0 straight up in ATS in the last 4. The running game is really, really doing well. Wayne Gallman had a resurgence since he's been given the number 1 job after Saquon Barkley going down. And their defense, Chip, I thought they were phenomenal last week in their ability to contain and keep Russell Wilson in the pocket and cover those dangerous wide receivers.
Their secondaries come alive, but they tackled Russell Wilson 6 times behind the line of scrimmage. And there were times when he was pressured where he had to just throw the ball away. The Giants were invigorated. The fact that they all of a sudden found themselves in first place, they lost their quarterback and they go out to Seattle. And I think they shocked the NFL world. They labeled this the biggest upset of the season. And they said by far, and a 10-point underdog winning isn't all that surprising. We've seen that before, but I just think the Giants had no quarterback and everyone had said, all right, they've run their gambit. They're from the NFC East. And I really thought that
everybody but
the Giants.
But now Ross Benjamin, I had the Giants last week.
Buddy. You had the Giants, and you told me that right off top, and I told you it was a great spot and a great pick for you. And he never had the Stondines to do it. But
hey,
I mean, that was a great call, no question. But now they go home after winning 4 in a row, buoyed with confidence. I mean, they're patting each other on the back all over the place. The New York press is going absolutely wild. And here comes this team, loses a 4 out of 5, only one because of that Hail Mary, led a game by 1 second on the last play of the game. And they're favored here. This is one of those don't make sense games that we had mentioned about, or,
there was a couple in college football.
What's he trying to tell you here?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we talked about a couple in college football, and when we talked about this earlier, I says I think I like the Giants, and Chipper said, "Be careful. This pretty much is the same situation we've described to the listeners in yesterday's show on 2 particular games that we talked about." So, I'm going to take a second look. I certainly am putting up the stop sign. Anyway, Houston and Chicago. At Chicago, the Bears opened as a 3-point home underdog. They're down to 1. And the total in this game, 45.5. The Houston Texans, 4-8. The Bears are 5-7. The 4-8 team is the favorite here. Chipper, what do you think?
I think I'll take the team that has more character. How about that?
And how do you come to that conclusion on which team?
By our observation of what we've seen them do this year. And I think as bad as they are, having lost 13, 14, 15 in a row, that the Bears are the side here. I really think Houston is a real abomination. And I don't think they have character at all, that team. And not necessarily going back to O'Brien, because they were probably the team who knew what they were doing and trying to jettison him out of there. We knew that he didn't belong there. And maybe we should go back to the tapes, Ross, that you mentioned about when we said, how does O'Brien keep his job after trading away one of the best receivers, Anthony Hopkins, in football? And now he has no passing game.
Hopkins.
and it complains this year he's got no passing game.
Yeah.
So I'll take the 0-35 Bears on that losing streak and at home over a team that I think will quit, will fumble on the 2-yard line with 1 second to go. I just have no confidence in these Houston Texans. I'm sorry for Texas.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? We both had Houston last week.
Ooh.
And one has to wonder when a team is having limited success this year in the manner in which they lost the game last week, how they're going to recover. And refreshing everybody's memory. 2nd and goal at the 2-yard line with a minute to go and down 5 against Indianapolis. They, for whatever reason, beyond me and Chipper's comprehension, teams Why they go into the shotgun on second and goal from
Never
the
get it.
two, first and goal from the two is beyond me. A bad snap from center. It rolls to Watson. He kicks the ball. Somebody recovers from Indy, and the game is over. How do they recover from that? I think that's a tough one to recover. Now, if you're a winning team, like, for example, what happened to Buffalo against Arizona? Um, that's a team that's having success this year and had confidence to start with. Okay. So their chances of recovering to me are much greater than a team like Houston, who was a playoff team a season ago, are 4-7, looking to make themselves 5-7, and they throw away a golden opportunity to beat a division foe.
This is a team. I think it was week 3. They had a 17-0 lead on the Steelers and
Yes.
didn't even cover, and they were getting points. So you can have Houston, you can have the Texans. Like I said, I feel sorry for the state of Texas.
And Chicago's defense, which is normally their strength, has been their
Oh,
weakness of late.
yes,
Chip.
yes,
Yes.
yes.
So I was going to say, if you're going to take the best defense in this game in an otherwise even matchup, Chicago has the advantage there. Now, Houston lost Will Fuller, so they're going to be without him the rest of the year. He's their
Yep.
deep threat. So, again, folks, I agree with Chip. If there's a side here at Chicago, I'm not so sure I'm going to go and make them a play this week,
Yeah.
take money out of my pocket, or even put it out. It's possible. But at this particular moment in time, I certainly wouldn't take Houston. That's for sure.
You know what the thing is, Russ? If we charge somebody from this game, no matter which side we give, if we
Yeah.
lose, we have to look like the biggest horse's ass.
Yeah, you'll never hear the end of it, kind of thing. You
Yeah.
either look like a genius or an idiot.
Either side. I mean,
and-
it's just the way
yeah.
that game, these two matches up.
All right, so Carolina and Denver. A lot of the books don't have a line on this. The one I do see has a line. Has Carolina as a 3-point favorite and a total at 45.5. Chip.
Whoa.
When I see that this kind of where only one sports book has a line out, I'm certainly not going to make a move at this point, and I'm certainly not going to try to be intelligent and do an analysis on this game. But maybe you know something I don't. You have any thoughts?
My thoughts are: is that the first half line 3 against Denver? This Denver team?
Carolina, they got Carolina at 3 and 45.5.
I think it very, very short. Carolina has played better football this year. I know McCaffrey's most likely not going to play, but they've won without him. They've been competitive and lost in the final minute in a game or two. I know they did at Minnesota, right? And
Yeah.
And if you tell me this line is 3, my first thought would be there's something wrong on the Carolina side. If all the sports books have it down, like you said, there may be COVID issues. It's a type of game where we're just going to have to wait. It's not till Sunday. Today's only Wednesday. And no, today's Thursday. Excuse me. You know how time flies, Ross?
Yeah, especially when you're having fun.
Yeah,
you're getting
we are
old.
having fun each and every day.
Yeah,
College
having
basketball.
fun and getting old. It always flies.
Oh, I hate that second part, but
Only as old as you feel, my brother.
oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So anyway, what are you gonna do? I don't. We're not gonna play this game, are we?
No. You know what? I just double checked too, Chip. Right now, I have access to like 20 sports books on a 2-minute delay.
Right.
And only 2 of them have a lineup, and they both have exactly 3 and 45.5. So
There's
it
got to
made
be
me
something,
think a
Ross.
little bit.
There's got to
Yeah.
be something, Ross.
Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. When you see something like that,
Yeah.
you have to stop and say, look, let me look at the other games on the board. I'll revisit this later and assess where it's at that point. Minnesota at Tampa Bay. Now, this is a game of interest, and I sort of have a strong feeling here. The Vikings at 6-6. Look, not real impressive in their last 2 wins against teams they should be much better than. Last week, an overtime win against Jacksonville. Tampa Bay, you just don't know what you're going to get from them, Chip. And be
Wow.
honest, they've been better on the road than they have been at home. And they're laying 6.5 here with a total of 52.5.
Disappointment on both sides, I would imagine. I mean, Minnesota, who had the best home record over the last decade, if not 2 decades, can't seem to buy a win or a cover, at least at home. And now we have Tampa Bay, who can't seem to cover at home either. Been very overrated right from the top. One week we get the 30-year-old Tom Brady, and the next week we get the 45-year-old Tom Brady. And that inconsistency, I think, has hurt them. Though
Yeah.
They are you've mentioned it before, and you pointed out to me how their rushing defense was like number one in the NFL last year and is number one and number two this year for the whole season. And now you've got Cook coming, Dalvin Cook or Devin Cook coming in from Minnesota, and that's primarily going to be their run game. Are you telling me you're going to leave Cousins to beat Brady?
Well, I mean, I don't know what Tampa Bay team is going to show up. Look,
Yeah.
let's stop and think about this. They blew Green Bay out at home. Then they get blown out by New Orleans. They lose to Kansas City last week. Brady, to me, doesn't look right. I mean, I don't know if it's aging. I'm sure that has something to do with it, but he hasn't looked sharp over the last few weeks. And his receivers aren't helping him out a lot either.
No.
And I don't know, Minnesota. Yeah. I mean, the bottom line is you could throw the ball on Tampa Bay. I mean, as good as they are against the run, Chip, they're not so good in the air.
I'm wondering if Bruce Arians isn't a bit overrated, and we're expecting too much out of Tom Brady when Arians is running the show there, and maybe he's not getting the same type of. I don't know if he has the same leeway he had when he had with Belichick, but I know there were a few games where Arians was actually not hostile, but wasn't very complimentary.
No, he was critical of him. Yeah, critical, and rightfully so, Chip. I remember at least two incidents in which he was in a post-game press conference, and I agreed with him on both occasions.
Yeah.
The thing with Brady is, look, what he's been guilty of, especially in recent weeks, is making bad decisions. Okay, and that's something we're not used to seeing, Chip. We're used to seeing him flawless, and if you beat him, it's because your secondary covered very well, or you put a lot of pressure on him. Okay.
I think he's under a little bit more pressure now than he's used to for the most part, and throughout his entire career. And we've always said it doesn't matter who you are, you pressure a quarterback, and they're going to make mistakes. And I think Brady's receiving a little bit more pressure than he has when he's with the Patriots, and it's maybe kind of new to him. I mean, we know he's seen pressure all his life, but I don't think he's used to it as often as he's getting it now.
Well, when he first had early success with New England, there was no pressure. He was a rookie 6th-round draft choice. Nobody expected a lot out of him. And then he got surrounded by a great team. Now, here's the thing here, too. I don't want to make excuses, but let's be serious here. There was no offseason practically in the NFL this year. Yeah. And when you step into a new offense like Brady had to, he didn't have any time to really build any chemistry with his wide receivers. And then at one point, Mike Evans was hurt. At another point, Chris Godwin was hurt. So not to make excuses for him, wasn't your typical off season. Okay. Having said that, to me, I'd be leery of going against Tampa next year. And I know this might sound absurd to some of you. I said this last year. Cleveland was getting all the hype in the preseason. Right, remember? Right. Yep. And they really laid an egg going 6-10. This Tampa Bay team received similar type of hype. Going into this year for obvious reasons, Tom Brady being number one. And yeah, they're not 6-10, but they're 7-5. But, not for nothing. I don't know if you'd find any Tampa Bay fan or any NFL fan that would say, well, 7-5 is okay. Well, not with what the expectations were. So I think you're going to see something like what you saw in Cleveland last year. The hype was enormous. Right. Okay. They couldn't live up to it. And what happens this year? You don't hear a peep about Cleveland. Everybody's down on them. And where are they? 9-3 at this point. Yep. With a full off season next year, and hopefully Brady stays healthy because he's planning on playing for another 3 years. I think Tampa Bay will be a much better product next year than they are this year. So we'll see. But Bruce Arians, no, I don't think, in my opinion anyway, Chip, I don't think he's an overrated coach. I think he's a very good one.
All right. Well, and when I meant pressure, I meant Brady's under pressure from defensive linemen more under the gun more often now than he has been in the past. And I think that affects him.
Absolutely. Yeah. There's no way. Look, in his heyday with New England, those offensive lines were very, very good. Yeah. They didn't allow anybody to get near him.
He's so much more effective now when you go to those quick hitters. And almost all of his passing receivers are skilled position players, are newcomers to the team as it is. So along with him, I mean, they've added a lot of different pieces to this puzzle of theirs.
I mean, the talent's there. You know what I mean? And am I counting them out for the year? No, absolutely not. But again, at this juncture, 7-5, and They're only one game ahead of the last wild card spot. You got three teams tied at 6-6. One of them's Minnesota. So this
Big
is a
game.
huge game for playoff implications.
Big game. Without question, Russ.
Yeah. All right. Kansas City at Miami. Now, this one interests me because
Okay.
the game opened at 7.5. It's down to 7.
Ooh.
And the total opened at 49 and it's up to 50.5. I got a really strong opinion on the total here. Again, Miami's been a pretty good underdog this year, right, Chip? But they're facing a
Right.
whole different animal here. So what's your thoughts?
I think it'll be overmatched. I mean, we've been waiting for this to happen a number of times this year, where we just thought Miami would fall short, and I think here they may be overmatched. I mean, their defense has been very opportunistic, but aren't they still middle of the road as far as giving up yardage and
Yes. I mean,
points,
I was
points are
I'm
among the
looking for
best.
my notes right now, but go ahead, Chip.
Points are they're among the best. I know that, and offensively they're among the worst. And I think Kansas City just has too much depth. I think that they're playing for real, and I don't think they're going to just take this game for granted. And they're undefeated on the road. I would take the Chiefs. I just, as great as Miami's been, as good as their defense has been, as good as a point spread play as they've been, I don't want them this week, Ross.
No, I think they're fool's gold. Look, I predicted Miami was going to be a surprise team this year, but now we're getting to the point where, hey, slow down. They're 8-4. I was going to be happy if they won 8 games, with my prediction, because they're over their regular season win total is 6.5. Now you're starting to talk about playoff contender and stacking up against the big boys at this time of year. Hey, slow down. Look, you've won a lot of games in a lucky manner this year. Now, I'm not taking away from their accomplishments, but look, this Miami defense that gets a lot of praise. Okay. 3 home games this year in particular against the Buffalo Bills. They gave up 524 yards. And against the Seattle Seahawks, 441 yards. Against the LA Rams in a game that they won, they allowed 471 yards and only had 210 yards themselves. And the Rams just self-destructed in that game. They had a punt return for a touchdown, interception return for a touchdown. So my point is Miami's a bit of fool's gold. Having said that, they've scored 23 or more in 5 of 6 home games this year. I might have a lean toward the over in this situation, Chip.
I see your point, other than the fact that Miami's offense is so dreadful. The thing is, I don't think Kansas City is going to take their foot off the accelerator at any point in time. And so you really might have something going for you there. I haven't paid too much attention to the totals. I think the moment you see the team Dolphins or Miami Dolphins, you're ordinarily, I think, would gravitate and think under.
Yeah.
We don't think,
and you're talking about a total over 50 now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, see, that's an indicator right there, Ross.
Yeah.
I mean, in a year where NFL totals have been really high, in the game like this, you still wouldn't expect it to be at 50.
No, not at all. It opened at 49, like I said, and most of the money, early money, has gone on the under. So a little bit of a reverse line movement there.
And you know what, Ross? I mean, for the public to be betting the unders an anomaly, because for the most part, they want to play the over. They enjoy,
Exactly.
they're not looking to play under in these games.
Yeah, and the public doesn't usually line up to play the under early. That's for sure.
Yeah.
It's
and you said the public's lined up to play the under, and yet the line has risen.
Yes, which leads me to believe there's been a couple sizable bets from respected sports bettors that the casinos are wary of. And they raised that number, encouraging even more under bets. So
you might be
again, that's just the way I'm thinking, like a bookmaker, Chip. That's all I'm doing.
Well,
anyway,
you might be one of those respected guys that moved that game over. So.
Thank you. Indianapolis at Las Vegas. And this is an interesting game. Las Vegas, look, they had one foot in the grave last week. They should have lost to the Jets if not for Greg Williams' arrogance in sending 7 guys with 13 seconds to play from the 45-yard line. The Raiders burned them with a touchdown pass to Ruggs, and Las Vegas escapes with a win and keeps their playoff hopes alive at 7-5. Even having said that, they're still a game behind the Indianapolis Colts and one other team, the Miami Dolphins, for
Yep.
that final wild card spot in the AFC. Big game for Las Vegas and Indianapolis after seizing control of the division with a 1-game lead by beating Tennessee on the road has relinquished their advantage. And now Tennessee relinquishes their advantage. So again, there's a lot of intrigue to this matchup, Chipper, and Indianapolis was very lucky, as I alluded to
Yeah.
escape with a win last week as well.
Well, what a great game. This is a big game for the Raiders, but you're talking about having one foot in the grave. Ross, that casket was being lowered into the ground, and there was just one little nail that they were able to breathe some air. But how they won that game last week was ridiculous. It cost, of course, the Jets their chance to win. They're most likely the only game of the year, and we had said they had a chance to win that game.
Yeah.
And they blew it. And Williams cost them his job, which rightfully so.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly.
I mean, that was to me just a selfish, arrogant call on his part.
It's 4 days later, and there's still, 3-4 columnists every day are writing about this in the New York papers about how the coaching staff can't get over it. They just, so forget about the Jets. The other side is the Raiders have to come to play here, and I think they may. I really like their coaching, and Indianapolis has been a little bit inconsistent for us this year, and this is a spot where it would make the league more intriguing, won't it? If the Raiders win this game,
it's always more intriguing when the Raiders are in contention, right? Now, even more so, their first year in Las Vegas.
Yeah, even though we're here, we're still getting those 15-yard headhunting penalties. The Raiders are known for. No, actually, they've really cut those down tremendously under Gruden. He just doesn't, like Ron Raymond said, he thinks that any player that does that, it's just their own ego, and they're really hurting the team. And I think Gruden really has these players thinking team first. And that's why I may like the Raiders this week. They know they got away with it last week. They had a poor performance at Atlanta, another poor performance against the Jets. I like to see them put it together here at home.
Well, for all intent and purposes, it's a must win.
Yes.
Because they won't be mathematically eliminated with a loss, Chip, but realistically, anything's possible, right? But with a loss,
there'll be 2 games in back of Indianapolis with 3 to go, and they've already lost to them. So
the only good thing is Miami's got Kansas City, so I don't know where the tiebreaker is there.
Right.
On Indianapolis, though, let's look at if they want aspirations to win the division, this is an excellent opportunity because if they can come away with a win here, remember, Tennessee's playing Jacksonville, this week. So if they lose this game, they're going to be at a distinct disadvantage because chances of Jacksonville pulling the upset, is possible?
Yeah,
yes, but highly improbable.
If they win this game, they virtually eliminate the Raiders in head-to-head competition for the wild card spot if they end up in a tie. So
and the only team that they realistically can catch is Miami. But I don't know, again, what the tiebreaker would be. Now, that's assuming Miami loses to Kansas City. If Miami knocks off Kansas City and the Raiders lose, you could rest assured you could dig that hole, Chip.
Yeah, I think Miami's probably in if they win this game. Maybe Kansas City.
Pretty much. I don't know. Mathematically, probably not, but pretty much, yes.
You said it, though. You said the AFC, you may have to win 10 games to make the playoffs.
Well, there's no doubt in my mind. I cannot see any scenario right now when looking at the standings, Chip, and you could confirm this after we get off air. I don't see any realistic chance for a team who wins 9 games to actually make it in the AFC.
Yeah.
You got 2 teams that are 8-4. You got the Browns at 9-3 that are going to be one of the wild card teams.
Yeah.
And then the Raiders, it's 7-5. So again, a must win for Las Vegas for their real chances. They'll still be alive mathematically, but a very slim hope if they lose this game. Jets at Seattle. Seattle is a 13.5-point favorite. Seattle lost last week as a double-digit favorite to the New York Football Giants, and now they're taking on the other team from New York, Chipper's beloved New York Jets. And could the Jets stay in this game, Chipper? Especially after what occurred last week.
The green slime? I don't understand that. Now, they call him the gang green out here in New York. I call him the green slime. I don't know, Ross, how they mentally focusing and get themselves together.
Yeah.
The thing I have to say is they are professionals. They are, and they want to win a game. They don't want to go through the season winless. Seattle, with a 14-point cushion with the spread, still has to win the game straight up. You saw what happened to them last week, so I think the Giants brought the they got. They're going to pay a little bit more attention, but I don't know if the Jets have the kind of firepower that the Giants have that defensively to be able to thwart this offense. Seattle can move the ball. I mean, maybe the Jets might be able to get some points, but then again, you got Sam Darnold running the show there, and he's the king of not scoring points. So,
Well, the difference being the Giants have a much better offensive line than the Jets.
yeah,
It's been their weakness for the last couple of years now. The Giants have a much better running game, which goes hand in hand with the offensive line. The Giants have a much better defense. And the worst thing that probably happened for the Jets was not with their chances of winning this game and pulling a shocker, was not the fact that they lost in the manner in which they did last week, but Seattle lost as a double-digit favorite to the Giants.
yeah,
So they're not going to be in a very good mood.
no,
And I doubt very much if you're going to get back-to-back flat performances from the Seattle Seahawks at home as a double-digit favorite. Having said that, you know me, Chip, I don't like laying those double-digit numbers in the NFL.
I think it's a spot, Ross, where Seattle can just win the game by 10 points. They could have a 17-point lead, and they could just, how respectful are they going to be of the Jets? That's the question. And are the Jets going to come like terrorists, or they're going to come out and just to do everything they possibly can, or have they just absolutely quit on the season? I happen to think, Ross, as professionals, that they're not going to quit, and maybe they don't have the talent and the ability, and they might be psychologically down this week, and they might think that they really don't have much of a chance to win this game. But I still think that the Jets are going to have to put out some effort, and I remember I said a couple of weeks ago, I think they're a side until they win a game.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say I would take them here by any stretch. Not on Seattle coming off that beating by the Giants. The Giants just mauled them, just ran the ball right down their throat. And Pete Carroll said there was nothing we can do. He says, we tried, there was nothing to compensate what the Giants did to that defense.
Well, spoken like a true Jets fan, Chip, I must say. Anyway, getting back to the matchup here. Again, not a game that I'm going to dabble with whatsoever. And, if Sam Darnold is ever going to get well, it's going to be against a porous Seattle secondary. So we'll see. Again,
I don't know how you can get well when you start your throwing motion from your hip. I just don't see it. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, again, he had that flaw in college. He remains to have that flaw, and I blame coaching on that. Nobody's helped him with his mechanics. And this Adam Gase was supposed to be a quarterback guru or an offensive guru, and he didn't get it done with this kid. So anyway, Atlanta and the Chargers. Boy, oh boy. Atlanta, a 2-point favorite on the road against the Chargers. This is an Atlanta team since the coaching change to Raheem Morris is 4-3. They blew a golden opportunity last week down inside the 15-yard line against New Orleans with less than 2 minutes to play and a 2nd and 2, and they went backwards and couldn't finish the deal, Chip. And that cost both of us as well. And the Chargers coming off, how are they going to respond after that 45-0 shellacking last week? On a positive note, although New England scored 45, the Chargers defense did hold them to 291 yards.
Ross, I'm trying to wonder here. Is it the NFL or you that's trying to job me with this game? I had both losers in this matchup last week, one of which lost 45-0. And I had switched sides from the Patriots. We talked about that earlier. I end up on the Chargers and lose. And then we had, like you said, a team that trying to outsmart the defense by waiting before they scored a winning touchdown, and they don't score. Atlanta, abomination this year. And I just think that the Chargers might be the side here.
Yeah.
I mean, where's the coaching advantage?
Well,
There's no coaching. You can't find one with these two guys.
Just hope that Anthony Lynn doesn't have to make good decisions with time management in the last 2 minutes of the game. So, because if that's the case, he's proven time and time again he can't handle that responsibility. Anyway,
He'd be better off. He'd be better off like this guy Cash in baseball, where he makes all his decisions before the game has started.
boy, you won't let that go.
Oh, I
New
hate
Orleans at Philadelphia, Chipper. The New Orleans Saints opened as a 7-point favorite, down to 6.5. The total in this game opened at 46, down to 44. Jalen Hurts gets his first start, the rookie out of formerly with Oklahoma and Alabama.
Well, the Eagles are so bad under Wentz, weren't they? I mean, they were just absolutely terrible. 18 interceptions, I think he had. But a fresh quarterback, maybe the Eagles look so ugly. I can't even talk about them. How could we take this team? If you saw what last week it looked like they had a backdoor cover. They scored 2 late TDs against Green Bay, and then with 2 minutes ago, they let Green Bay go 80 yards for the cover.
No, they broke off a 70-yard run. Aaron Jones.
There it goes. This is the team I want. And just think of how they beat Seattle that night. That was another great one coming from behind. But that being said, New Orleans has played so well, particularly on the road, Ross. We mentioned their road record against the points is just one of the best in the NFL. Something like 20-6 against the points, or 20. I think you had 19-2, as a matter of fact. But Hill's done a great job for them. I'm going to go with the rookie quarterback getting his first start, or maybe he's not a rookie, but getting the first start in the NFL. It might rejuvenate some of the Eagles and see if they can soar.
Well, he's definitely not going to be intimidated by the situation. The game won't be too big for him, Chip. I know it's a whole different animal when you start in the NFL compared to college, but this kid has played in some pretty big games with Alabama and Oklahoma.
Yep.
In college football playoff games, as a matter of fact. So he's not going to be. You're not going to get your average rookie in there. He's mentally strong, this kid, and a change at quarterback is what I think what the Eagles need. Not to pick on Carson Wentz, but he's having a terrible year. Okay.
Horrible.
And at this point, your playoff hopes are fading, if you have any in the NFC least. And it's hard to believe that we're into the second week of December and the two teams battling out for the NFC East division winner is Washington and the Giants, and Philadelphia and Dallas are holding up the rear, I should say. So again, I think this is a good spot for the Eagles. I really do.
I do too. I do too, Ross.
Yeah, New Orleans. Look, I'll tell you what I was impressed with last week is I really didn't realize how strong an arm Taysom Hill had. I know he was a good quarterback at BYU, but Chip, he was throwing some dimes last week. I mean, 30-yard ropes right on the money. I
don't know if he's lost the start in all the substitutions. All the times he started as a substitute. I think they may be undefeated against the number anyway.
Well, without Brees, they've been pretty darn good the last 2 years. Not to say they don't need Drew Brees, because they do. But I mean, between Teddy Bridgewater and Taysom Hill, I think the Saints are 8-0. In those guys starting the last 2 years as a replacement for Drew Brees. So
are we going to criticize Peyton for not putting Jameis Winston in there?
At this point, how can you? You know what I mean? I thought of it initially. I thought, well, look, this might be a good situation for Jameis Winston.
I don't know.
Because he's now with a better coaching staff, and he's got better receivers, and maybe not better receivers, because Tampa Bay's receivers were pretty good last year. But you know what? Peyton continues to make brilliant moves, brilliant decisions. Yeah. And Ron Raymond mentioned it on our other show. This is probably the most impressed he's been with Sean Payton, with all things being considered.
Sure.
And I veto that. I should say I agree with that vote.
And their defense has been outstanding, and they've been doing it all without Matt Williams.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, great against the run. You look at their defense, I think the last 4 games, they've given up 17 or fewer in each game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And you're going to be facing an Eagles offense that's been struggling to score. Now,
in those 5 games, they've only given up double digits twice, 13, 3, 3, and 9. So,
Yeah, well, 5 games. I said
yeah,
4. Yeah,
yeah.
there you go, so, the proof is in the pudding. Washington at San Francisco. The 49ers coming off that humiliating loss to Buffalo on Monday Night Football, and I say humiliating because
Boy.
they went to from an underdog to a favorite, a team that was playing for their playoff lives, and, a lot of people, a lot of experts out there, so-called experts, let me put it that way, we're picking San Francisco to knock off Buffalo, and boy, oh boy, the biggest surprise to me is they didn't compete defensively because that's their strong suit right
Yeah,
now.
well,
And
Ross,
yeah,
Ross, I'm
yes,
so impressed by your Buffalo Bills. They, defensively, I thought it was Josh Allen just shredding them, and I thought he was the difference, and he's really come along in my mind. I mean, I had the Niners. I was one of those so-called experts,
yeah.
but
Well, I didn't
you know,
intend that
no,
for
no, no.
you.
I'm on it. And you know what happened. That was a game where the line moved. Various reasons. Regardless, um, I was just so impressed with Buffalo's performance. Now they come home. Well, let's forget about Buffalo because we're talking about the Niners. But the Niners looked inept defensively, and I think that has more to do with the Bills than it does the Niners. But the Niners have had that kind of year, Ross, where they've just had COVID issues. They've had different issues. Quarterbacks going down, running backs going down. People
Tight
are coming.
end.
They haven't been in sync and they haven't been in sync at all. And that may have something to do with it. Here they're playing a team they're barking, boy, aren't they? I mean, this
Yeah.
Redskin team is looking to play football, and we've been saying all along that this team is underrated, that they're playing good football. And one of the main reasons was they have gained a ground game with Antonio Gibson, and now they've had settled things, the issues at quarterback with a veteran that controls the ball, doesn't turn it over, and very good against the run as well. Redskins are tough here. After what we saw against the Niners, I hate to go against an NFL team like that because, like I said, I think professionals have pride and they bounce back.
Yeah.
And they're off a really big win against the Steelers. So psychologically, I would think that the Niners are the side, but they don't pass the eye test, Ross.
Yeah, I know. But it seems like a prime example of what we look for: a team coming off a
Yeah,
loss versus a team coming off a win and otherwise even matchup for the most part. Washington coming off that upset win over the Steelers on Monday night. Now everybody's praising them and they're feeling their oats. San Francisco certainly was embarrassed by their performance. They're not out of it yet, even with that loss at 5-7. I mean, the last wild card spot in the NFC right now is 6-6. And I looked at San Francisco's remaining games, and they have a very legitimate chance to win out.
yeah,
So again, they'll have plenty of incentives still. And I just think it's a good spot for the 49ers.
yeah. They
I don't
should
know if
come
I'm
to
going to
play.
use it, but that's my initial thought.
They should come to play here after what we saw last week.
All right, speaking of those Buffalo Bills, Sunday
Ha!
night national TV, and they're going to be on national TV quite a bit. Last Monday, they were on national TV. They're hosting Pittsburgh, by the way. And right now, the Buffalo Bills are a 2-point favorite. The total's 48. Buffalo, again, they're playing on national TV Sunday night. They played on national TV last Monday. They're playing on national TV next Saturday at Denver in the Saturday edition of the NFL. And they're going to, I think, in week 16 on the road at New England on a Monday night. So they'll have plenty of chances to prove to the nation and that small market team from Buffalo is a lot better than people think. They'll
Yeah.
certainly have an opportunity to do that against a Pittsburgh team who's 11-1. And you said it, Chip, and I agree with you. You would have liked Buffalo if Pittsburgh didn't come off a loss. In
Yeah.
other words, if they came off a win and Buffalo came off a loss, it would have been a prime spot to take Buffalo, just like we just alluded to in the Washington San Fran game. Again, I'm not the guy to ask when it comes to a Buffalo Bills game. So I'm going to defer to you, buddy.
Well, like I said, if we're not getting the scenario we had hoped for. At least I'm not. I could have looked at being playing Buffalo if the Niners had taken them out, and yet they dominated the Niners, as we just talked about. And if Pittsburgh had won, we expected them to win, being a strong favorite over Washington. Um, but this, I love the game. I love the matchup. I'm just wondering if Buffalo's not getting the kind of credence and respect that they deserve. They originally were supposed to be a dog in this game. Remember the
Yes.
overnight put out before the results of the Sunday games, and the there's a scenario here that I wanted to bring up, and it just escapes me. It's on the tip of my tongue. About well, I'm sorry, Ross. I just lost it.
That's okay. And what you were alluding to with the line, so people understand, is the lines in the NFL come out on Sunday night on the majority of the books. Okay. And when the Sunday night line came out, Pittsburgh was -2 in this game. But both Pittsburgh and Buffalo hadn't played yet. They both were scheduled to play on Monday night. So, being as it may, Pittsburgh lost, Buffalo won. Buffalo looked very impressive in their win, and Pittsburgh, again, suffering their first loss against Washington at home. So, hence, that's why we're seeing the line here. That's not a money movement. That's a movement by the books. Okay. So you
You know,
got to understand that. You have to read between the lines with no pun intended.
you know,
Any other thoughts on this game, Chip?
yeah, I do. And I don't think Pittsburgh's played the toughest schedule. And the thing that escaped my mind that I had told you before that in sports, basketball, football, really doesn't matter. When a team has had a big run from the beginning of the season and they're undefeated, once they've been handed that first loss and they've lost a little bit of their mojo, I'm not trying to say that they've lost their confidence, but it's a little bit different the next time out. And this is, I used to call this with a good friend of mine, it's called the bang bang theory. Bang, they got beat the first time, bang, they got beat again. And it particularly happens, say, in college basketball, when teams are undefeated, they're 11-0, and then they go away, and then boom, boom, they lose 2 in a row. So I wouldn't be surprised if Buffalo comes up here at more because of Pittsburgh being a little off. And, Pittsburgh's been very fortunate winning, going undefeated to this point. I'm not saying they're not a really good team, but we'll see. They may get their comeuppance again this weekend as well.
I know one thing. They've had a hell of a time trying to run the ball, Chip. They do
Yeah.
get James Conner back this week, but even before he went down with the COVID, they were struggling. I think they've gone like 5 of the last 6 games with less than 100 yards rushing, which is very uncharacteristic of a Pittsburgh Steeler offense.
To
And
me,
Paul Bovey brought it up to us on our show that we do on another network last week, and said, take a look at who Pittsburgh has faced in
right.
terms of starting quarterbacks. And he started naming them off. And I'm not going to name them off because I don't want to be disrespectful to anybody in that regard. But Josh Allen is not one of those quarterbacks. He proved that last week. He's proved it all year. I mean, this guy's,
I'm impressed.
26 touchdown passes against 8 interceptions, 6 running touchdowns, 300 yards rushing. He's not only that, Chip. How many times did you see last week where in the face of pressure, he's got that ability with his mobility and strength to escape pressure and
Yep.
make plays on the run? And I mean, he's rolling to his right and throwing a ball 35 yards downfield to Cole Beasley on a rope and right on target. And one of the big criticisms of Josh Allen entering this year and entering his rookie year was his completion rate. And, the critics were really, really jumping on him after his rookie year. He only 52% completions. And then last year, just 58. Well, right now he's around 70.
There
So,
you go.
I mean, anybody who hasn't watched this kid like yourself and saw him last week says, wow, man,
Well,
has he improved? But it's something like us here locally, we've been used to seeing of late.
yeah.
So, look, it wasn't a shock. Let's put it this way. It was really nice to
Well,
see a quarterback from Buffalo excel in a national TV environment.
I told you the first time he impressed me was against Arizona in the game, the Hail
Yeah.
Mary game. They lost, and I had mentioned that to you. And I had seen him at Wyoming play here at UNLV, and I thought he was a little erratic. And coming out his rookie year at 52% completion sort of verifies that. But he has grown, he's developed. And you mentioned his running ability really sustains drives, and is when a quarterback can run for 8, 10, 12 yards and sustain a drive, and he's doing it 4 or 5 times a game. I mean, that's a big boost to the offense. Big Ben is different. I mean, they're both the same size, and Big Ben, I think, controls all of the Steelers, and how he goes, I think that is how that team's going to go. And it's tough to sack him because he's so big,
Yeah.
and he doesn't run as often as say as Wood does, as Allen does rather. But it's been part of his success formula for all these years. And now he's slowing down a little bit. I don't think he's looking to run with the ball as often, or he has quite the agility and mobility and quickness that he once had.
No.
But he's going to throw the ball 40 times a game, and you're going to have to stop that.
There's a lot of similarities in a lot of ways between
Yeah.
Josh Allen and a young Ben Roethlisberger.
Mhm.
Ben was the same way. He had that ability to be strong in the pocket when you thought you had him nabbed. He
Right.
wiggled out of things. Didn't look like the most nimble of guys, but found a way. Extended plays, made throws on the run, and when called upon and needed to, he could, with his legs, extend drives on third down.
Yep.
So now he doesn't have that type of mobility anymore, but he certainly could throw the ball still. And he's still, even though put cast last week aside, he's having a good year, so
They,
we'll,
they had a 13-0 lead in that game, and they blew a scoring opportunity at the goal line. They left the ball at the 1. Another time they passed up the field goal. They could be 12-0 easily entering this
Yeah.
game.
and that goes hand in hand with their inability to run the ball, Chip.
Yeah.
I mean, you're down on the goal line, or, Pittsburgh Steelers teams of past ran the ball effectively, and that was almost automatic. If they got inside the 2 or inside the 1, they were going to stuff it down your throat, and there's no way you're going to stop them 4 times from inside the 2.
Yeah.
4th and short, you're not thinking about play action pass or getting fancy. You're just giving it to your running back and trusting that great offensive lines they've had. So a little different of an animal here. Now, having said that, buyer beware, because Buffalo has struggled against the run at times this year. So if Pittsburgh's running game is going to get better, this might be a situation that could occur. Again, it depends on the flow of the game, Chip. I think San Francisco last week had to abandon their running game very early on because they fell behind by double digit, especially in the second half. So we'll see. I'm really looking forward to this matchup. I really am. Baltimore at Cleveland on Monday night. Another great matchup. The Baltimore Ravens opened as a pick'em. They're now a 2-point favorite. The Cleveland Browns, who don't get a lot of love. The total in that game is 47, by the way. The Cleveland Browns, who don't get a lot of love, 9-3, a quiet 9-3, I may add. And they're going to be out to try to revenge a 38-7 loss on opening day at Baltimore. What's your thoughts, Chip?
My thoughts were over at the beginning of the season that the Browns were overmatched in that game, and that they were pretenders, and they've certainly bounced back going 8-2 since then, because they were really just annihilated that game. Ross State, I mean, no offensive yards. They looked really pitiful. It was as if it was the junior varsity against the varsity. Now is a different scenario because the Ravens don't look like the same team to me anymore, even though they had that impressive win against, who did they beat the other day? Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, my memory gets wiped
Dallas.
clean.
They beat Dallas. And
They won at home.
against Dallas.
Dallas, yes.
Yeah,
On
that's not
Tuesday
an
night.
impressive
Yeah.
win. You beat Dallas. I mean, what's the big deal? And that up until that point, they had lost 3 in a row. Their whole game is predicated on a quarterback draw, and on calling a quarterback draw and then have him pull up for a pass to a wide open receiver because everyone's reacted to the running play. The fact that they annihilated the Browns so big in that first game, I think it's going to keep Cleveland's attention, and I think Cleveland's going to be focused because they haven't been in a winning position in eons, Ross. And the little camaraderie there. They don't throw the ball that well. They're going to have to look to control it on the ground with that great running.
Well,
tandem.
Baker Mayfield threw the ball awfully well last week.
Yep.
Again, I'm not trying to disagree with you, Chip.
No, you know what I'm saying about the running game.
Yeah, prior to that, you're right. They weren't with that running game. he wasn't asked to do a lot.
Right. Yeah.
But he did set a Cleveland Browns record for passing yards in the first half last week.
I
So,
think Otto Graham's spinning in his grave here.
yeah, I mean, they got outscored 28-3 in the second half, like you said, and they still won the game by a touchdown. So, here's the thing. It's going to be imperative for Cleveland, in my opinion, they get out to a lead in this game or keep it close, at least for a half. Because what happened in that opening game against Baltimore is they got down early by double digits. And by the second half or late first half, they had abandoned the running game. And Chipper, Derrick Henry might be the best running back in the game. But like I said last week, and again, look prophetic, is Nick Chubb, the combination of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think are the best 1-2 running back punch or running back duo, in all the NFL. So if Cleveland could stay close or jump on, get out to a lead and let that running game, which will open up play action pass, right, Chip? Because if you have to go one dimensional or you can't run the ball, Cleveland's in trouble because they don't have the type of receivers right now that scare anybody. Jarvis Landry is a good receiver, but he's not a great receiver. I mean, he's not a deep threat. Okay. Right. At least with OBJ there, when he was healthy, he may have been shut down on certain occasions, but he kept defenses honest. You know what I'm trying to say, Chip? He had the ability to take the top off of defense. I don't think they have that right now. I guess you could say Rashard Higgins is that guy. But anyway, what's your thoughts, Chipper?
My thoughts are, I don't think the Ravens are what they've cracked up to be. I think they've fallen a notch or two since the beginning of the season. And I think Cleveland has raised the tier at least. I mean, they're playing with confidence, and big win last week. And they, like you said, they got outscored 28-3 in the second half and still won the game easily by the point spread anyway. So, my instinct here is that Cleveland is going to look to give Baltimore everything they can handle. The game's a virtual pick 'em, right? And I know the Ravens have been really tough on the road, but I don't know what the numbers are with them as favorites on the road.
Yeah, I still think they're pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, we're talking about a whole different Baltimore team here, in my estimation. Their defense is still pretty good, right, Chip? But, last week they were able to run, or Tuesday night, I should say, they were able to run for 294 yards against Dallas. Dallas can't stop a leaky faucet, for crying out loud. When they can't stop the run. So
yeah, you waited this weekend.
Yeah. Again, we'll see. They're not facing any running game. That's why. But in any event, this should be an interesting matchup. It'll be a tough call. Too early for me to commit to anything on this game. Again, we're taping on Thursday. Folks, just a friendly reminder, subscribe to our YouTube channel here. You'll see a subscribe button right on the lower right-hand side of this video. And just click on that. And if you hit the notification bell, you'll even be alerted whenever we publish a video on this channel. And we air 4 times a week, the Winner's Circle betting podcast with myself and Chip Chirimbus. I also do 2 to 3 free pick videos on this channel every week. And it's a way to keep these videos alive. And we certainly appreciate all the subscribers who have already done so. And we certainly would appreciate any of you viewing that haven't so far. 100% free, Chip. Costs you absolutely nothing. And don't forget to give the 2 old geezers a like at the end of the video.
One last thing, everyone will know by Monday, but Dez Bryant just came up positive today. He will not be in uniform for the Ravens in that game against Cleveland that we're talking about.
So he got pulled off the field Tuesday night because I thought he tested positive then, or was it because it was contact tracing?
It might have been contact tracing because today they said he tested positive.
Okay. Then he emotional after when he got pulled off the field, said he was retiring again. You know what?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, but here's the thing, man. You don't make decisions in life when you're emotional. I learned that a long time ago. I call it a timeout period. I need 24 to 48 hours to let things simmer and think rationally. Because when you're emotional, you don't think rational. I think there's, in his defense, Chip, he had been out of football for 2 years. Say what you will about him off the field. He's his own worst enemy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's some truth to be told there, okay?
Right.
But now you get an opportunity with a playoff contending team in Baltimore, and you're going to be in the starting role against the team that let you go or didn't opt to resign you, and
Yeah.
you get pulled off the field in warmups. Come on, buddy, we got to give him a break. You know what? He has the right to be emotional at that point.
Well,
Anyway,
he's like I said, I thought he retired before, but um,
well,
regardless,
yeah,
I wasn't a big Des Bryant fan. He's not going to be playing on Monday, and he's probably not going to be playing again ever.
yeah. Well, it's too bad. Anyway, um, until the next time, folks, we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to really hone in on a couple college football games. We're going to be looking at another 24 hours for us to look at line movement in the NFL as well. And then, you know what? Tomorrow, we're going to do, we're going to give you a college football free pick and an NFL free pick at the end of tomorrow's show. So be sure to join us. If you can't be with us right away, we're on archive, right at our YouTube channel. All you need to do is go to the archive 24/7. You could access any of our shows, including yesterday. So, Chipper, any final thoughts before we leave the audience?
No, I'm just really happy with what's going on, Ross. The football season seems to have flown by so quickly. I mean, after we had those 5 months off because of the virus, and now everything just seems to be flying by. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm
Well, it
really
always
excited.
does. It always does.
Yeah.
You can't wait for football. Next thing you know, the college football season is the last week of the regular season. The NFL
Yeah,
winding down the last 4 weeks. So we got a lot to look forward to still with the college football playoffs, bowl games, the NFL postseason. A lot of good stuff still coming up on the agenda.
absolutely.
And
And,
college basketball just started. And the NBA will be
college basketball is a gift.
yeah,
I
and the
love.
NBA will be starting soon. So we still got a lot to talk about here on the Winner's Circle. Okay, until the next time, folks, which is tomorrow, good luck and God bless. Thank you for joining us today.